Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Anup Kumar Kapoor from Department of Anthropology, University of Delhi. Today we are going to discuss about a module, Tribal Art and Aesthetics under the paper Tribal Culture of India. The objectives are the first, to identify unknown art and craft of the tribals contains in itself their unwritten record of cultural life. Second, recognition and analysis of graphic and symbolic description noticed or found through tribal folk arts, analysis of associated tribal youth with distinct aesthetic life of the tribals, and finally, determining the properties of different tribal arts, eliciting the ethnicity and cultural identity from the art crafts of the tribals, assisting in building up a picture of lifestyle of travel. When we see the tribal art and aesthetics, India is marked by its rich traditional heritage of travel, of folk arts and culture. Since the days of remote past, the diversified art and culture forms generated by the tribal and rural people of India have continued to evidence their creative magnificence. Apart from their outstanding brilliance from the perspectives of aesthetics, the tribal or folk art and culture forms have played an instrumental role in reinforcing national integrity, crystallizing social solidarity, fortifying communal harmony, intensifying value system, and promoting the elements of humanism among the people of the country. However, with this passage of time and advent of globalization, we have witnessed the emergence of a synthetic, homogeneous macroculture. Under the influence of such a voracious, all-pervasive macroculture, the diversified, heterogeneous travel or folk culture of our country are suffering from attrition and erosion. Thus, the stupendous socio-cultural exclusivity of the multifarious communities at the different nooks and corners of our country are getting endangered. The history of India's Adivasis or tribals dates back to the pro-Aryan era. For ages, they reside over the subcontinent's hilly terrains, but over the centuries, those with the access to the written word, apart from other things, gain prominence over those whose traditions were rooted in the oral culture. During the colonial period, Adivasis or tribals were given the new designation of tribal, or in post independent India, they are known as stool tribes. The essence of the tribe was interpreted as a stage of evolution as opposed to a type of society. When education centers were opened, the syllabi focused on the socio-cultural roots of the select communities, which deprived non-Advasi children of knowledge of Advasi culture and denied Advasi children the pride of their heritage. Art and artifacts of tribal culture. Tribal art is often ceremonial or religious in nature. Typically originating in rural areas, tribal art refers to the subject and craftsmanship of artifacts from tribal cultures. The Constitution of India identifies the indigenous people as tribes. According to 2001 census, India has a tribal population of 8.2% of its total population. Tribes as a social formation may be identified in two ways. Firstly, as a stage in the history of evolution of human civilization. Secondly, as a society organized on the basis of kinship ties, which enables them to be multifunctional grouping. In India, tribals are defined in reference to the cultural practices of certain groups in relation to the mainstream Hindu cultural practices. Tribal and folk arts overlap. All that is tribal art is folk art, but folk art cannot be non tribal also. Both tribal and folk art are deeply connected to the community. They emerge from the daily life of a community and are shaped by the environment in which community lives. For example, dance of Santhal and Nagas, despite both being tribal dance, are as different from each other as chalk and cheese. This is because the lives of these two tribes have manifested in different terrains and they have extremely different lifestyles, rituals, customs, religions that are reflected in their arts. The term folk includes all those persons living within a given area who are consequence of a common cultural heritage and have some constant traits, that is, occupation, language, and religion. Tribal art or folk art is motivated by utilitarian and ritualistic features and sometimes by recreational impulses. Some practitioners may be better skilled than others, but tribal or folk art are essentially about a group or community rather than the individual artist. Mainly dominated and shaped by religious motives, the relation between this art and religion is a universal feature. It is an integral part of living. In tribal societies, there is no real distinction between art and life or between fine art and applied art. Importance of art culture. India has a rich culture folk tradition, folklore arts, beliefs, rites and rituals, myths and rural handicrafts are factors that enrich our folk tradition. They became well known as knowledge transmitted by oral tradition. Folklore has an important role in handing down social norms and religious knowledge and wisdom, and in keeping the social structure stable. Folklore arts, beliefs, rites, and rituals, myths, rural handicrafts are factors that enrich our folk tradition. They have become well known as knowledge transmitted by oral tradition rather than written branches of knowledge. Folklore has an important role in handing down social norms, moral laws, religious knowledge, and wisdom, and in keeping the social structure stable. It is in the form of inherited culture that we see folklore elements in every culture. Religion has a very important role in the formation of identity of each society. It is the shell of cultural formation. The individuals in a society are born into them. It is through these customs and practices that social solidarity remains. Pre existing cultural rules determining our ideas and behavior through socialization. Societies are made up of structures of cultural rules, established beliefs, and practices to which their members are expected to conform. Each social structure has unique customs and practices as well as systems of beliefs. Folk arts and beliefs play an important role in the timely reforms and establishing of these two customs and practices. We take tribal arts. Dean Majumdar and other anthropologists had opined that tribal life, artistic life, is reflected mainly in three forms of their art. The first is oral literature, the second is music and dance, the third is art and dancing. The above classification has excluded the folk artisan, craft, acrobatics, etc. The artistic life of the tribals includes in itself the following forms, that is, folklore, oral literature. It includes myths, tales, legends, riddles, proverbs, song, verse, aspect, etc. Second, Folk music and dance, this includes folk songs, that musical aspect, folk songs, music, and folk dance, etc. Then we have folk art handicrafts and acrobatics. These include folk art, drawing, painting, carving, woodcraft, metalcraft, garment making with decoration, wooden or cotton produce, etc. Folklore is the oral literature of the simpler society and is perpetuated by oral tradition. There is usually no technique of teaching, certainly no formal technique connected with the making and singing of songs. They are learned by the ear and transmitted in this fashion from generation to generation. Nor is there a conscious awareness of forms or construction on the part of the folk singer or folk teller. There is no aesthetics or analytical theory in his mind. The tribal people sit at a place in the village for chatting, dancing, singing, and even taking serious matters of the village. In many of the tribes, there is an institution of youth dormitory, a place where all the unmarried youth of the village assemble at night after a day's toil. Before going to bed, they tell stories, solve puzzles, and give dramatic performance. They also sing and dance. This regular assembly of boys and girls, which is embodied in tribal institution of youth. Folklore is a broad category comprising all the myths, legends, folk tales, riddles, proverbs, and superstitions of a cultural group. In general, folklore is transmitted across generations orally through the process of enculturation. Among the earlier anthropologists, it was Herskovits who systematized folklore studies in anthropology. He suggested five themes occurring in the myths and folk tales of all the societies. First is catastrophe, second is slaying of monsters, third incest, fourth sibling rivalry, and finally castration. Tribal music and dance. Folk songs, music, and dance of the tribals are a composite wild, which is one of the dominant characteristics of their culture. In folk songs, verse and music go together, and the musical aspect is much more reflected in practice. The folk poetry is merely a vehicle for the folk tune. The tribal people go on singing a small poem of 4 to 8 lines for hours together with the help of folk music. The simple, catchy folk tunes conveying the feelings and sentiments of their ancestors, their lives and thought, their activities and achievements, their morals and disciplines are of great value. The songs are of several kinds. There are lifestyle songs sung at different occasions like birth, marriage, and death. Then there are moral songs, teaching morals, thoughtful songs, teaching the philosophy of human life, and simple songs. Tribal music and dance. Folk songs, music, and dance of the tribals are a composite wild, which is one of the dominant characteristics of their culture. In folk songs, verse and music go together, and the musical aspect is much more reflected in practice. The folk poetry is merely a vehicle for the folk tune. The tribal people go on singing a small poem of 4 to 8 lines for hours together with the help of folk music. The simple, catchy folk tunes conveying the feelings and sentiments of their ancestors, their lives and thought, their activities and achievements, their morals and disciplines are of great value. The songs are of several kinds. There are lifestyle songs sung at different occasions like birth, marriage, and death. Then there are moral songs, teaching morals, thoughtful songs, teaching the philosophy of human life, and simple songs. Forms of folk culture in India. The modern communication media in India coexist with traditional media such as music, particularly the folk and the tribal music, dance, drama, and poetry. The folk or tribal art, music, and dance vary from region to region. the folk theatres are seen in its region variants in almost every linguistic regions of the country. The puppetry theatre in many forms, string puppets, rod puppets, group puppets, leather puppets are found in different parts of the country. Traditional media, that is, folk or tribal art and culture, have played a very important role in solving several emotional problems and channelizing the destructive forces into the constructive ones. In India, too, music, dance, and drama have always played an important role in combating destructive elements and in harmonizing emotional outbursts relating to caste, creed, religion, and language issues. Several folk forms of entertainment prevalent in different parts of India were powerful media of public instruction and a unifying force of emotional integrity. They brought the poor and the rich together. Thousands of people suffering from domestic and psychological problems used to witness them as a relief to their perplexed life. Such healthy entertainment did dissuade the human beings from destructive activities. Creating cultural identity. Apart from creating cultural identity, folk art forms have other great social missions. The most important is the collective conscience they produce, the integrity of individuals, and equipping them to meet social challenges are a part of this. If the influence exerted by this collective representation is lost, that loss leads to an individual to the loss of this self. This is the most important among the complex crises faced by modern society. Dealing with the different seasons like the springs, the rain, etc., occasional songs associated with the festivals, and religious songs sung at the time of offering to deities. Again, there are working songs which help in synchronizing the working, that is, Thumar of the Araons and Munda, which are sung at the time of planting paddy, and many craft songs dealing with the actual technique of the craft. For instance, mat making, plowing, basket making are described in simple folk songs. Such songs are of very great value in teaching the younger generation various crafts in the simplest method. There are songs of historical importance which, through their simple tunes, can enlighten the tender minds with the tough subject of history in the earliest manner. Folk songs may be classified on the basis of the number of singers. According to this term of reference, the tribal folk songs fall under three heads: group, couple, and single. Dance is associated with other aspects of culture as closely as music. Religion and ethnic culture take an important role in the formation of the social structure. Our society consists of structural units based on structural pluralism. Folk arts and folk songs play an important role in their survival. They stand in relation to the power system in every society. Power system is related to caste, gender, and economic status. The drama, being a product of the masses and having undergone an unconscious process evolution through the creative genius of the people, represented different trends of the society in their true color. It was, at first, in its community form, was performed by the villagers themselves. Such enthusiasm was witnessed among the people that they would collectively construct and decorate the stage, spend their own money for costumes and ornaments for the play. The artists gave their voluntary services as a part of their natural duty. The organization of a drama in a village was a great event accompanied with festivals, community singing, dancing, and ceremonial feasts. The guest artists from other villages used to receive the honor at their hands. A network of such folk dramas was spread all over the India. The regions full of artistic activities were less infected by behavior problems and litigation cases. A folk drama is liked by people not because of its production value, but because of its communicability and the relationship between the audience and the performer. The informal way of presentation, the simplicity and freedom from all boredom of technicalities are the very life of a folk drama. The audience should have the feeling of oneness with the performer and should be in tune with his emotions and aspirations. If these factors are lost, the whole drama is lost. The traditional folk drama in India has its deep root in the society only because it is declared there to the tradition. There are several other semi-drama type of traditional media of communication such as the Bharupiya art, the mask procession, the Nahan, etc. The Bharupiya, for example, is one of the most ancient forms of entertainment prevalent in almost all parts of India. They are most witty people, well versed in the art of costuming, mimicry, and imitation. They stay at one place for days together and perform jhankis and monodramas of several times before their patrons. We take community songs and dances. India had a band of religious teachers and gurus, leading people to the path of pious living and high thinking. Their teachings were made palatable through artistic renderings such as community singing, dancing, and devotional songs. These artistic activities and ways of living were a very healthy substitute for destructive and immoral ways of living. Community singing, such as kirtans, bhajans, and hari kathas, were great potential factors in bringing people nearer, irrespective of their class, creed, and color. The numerous folk entertainments such as Baharupati Kala, Snake Charming, Tera Tai, dummy horse dancing, nut acrobatics were so popular that no Indian home in both rural and urban areas was left without a performance of these at least once a year. All Indian ceremonies, marriages, and festivals were full of dances and songs. All religious and community centers were associated with some sort of artistic expression as a means of spiritual development and understanding of complex human nature. These art forms were practiced in relationship with the life and for the achievement of artha, dharma, karma, moksha, that is, for the growth of a complete human being. They helped us to love each other and live and let others live peacefully and harmoniously. Puppetry. Puppetry is perhaps the most outstanding tradition medium which requires patronage and trial. The Indian tradition puppet art, as emphasized in the puppets, was principally meant to highlight the achievements of our ancestors and those distinguished personalities who had contributed to the growth of human society. The puppets were carved in most fantastic and interesting figures. Their limitations and deficiencies in the sizes, action, movements, and autonomy have a science of their own and are governed by principles based on experience and study on the part of Indian traditional puppeteer. The heavy stress on stylization and symbolization in Indian puppetry is to make the emotional appeal of the puppet powerful and lasting. That's why a puppet character, while in action, has more impact on the audience than a human character. Another factor that contributes to the effectiveness of the puppet in its independent personality, unlike a human actor. Oral communication. India has a rich tradition of oral communication. It has many forms such as sermon, speech, verse, song, folk music, drama, etc. Information is dissemination through Hari Kathas, Koalis, public meetings, and group discussions. The daily group prayer, meeting in towns and villages, travelers' tales, fairs and festivals, religious concourses held periodically at major pilgrimage centers such as Kumbh Mela at Allahabad have been popular media of oral communication. Then we have influence on modernism. However, with the passage of time and advent of globalization, witnessed the emergence of synthetic homogeneous macroculture. Under the influence of such a voracious, all-pervasive macroculture, the diversified, heterogeneous tribal or folk culture of our country are suffering from attrition and erosion. Thus, the stupendous socio-cultural exclusivity of the multifarious communities at the different nooks and corners of our country are getting endangered. Tribal art, like folk art, has also progressed considerably due to the constant development efforts of the Indian government and other organizations. Tribal art generally refers to the creative energy found in rural areas that act as an undercurrent to the craftsmanship of the tribal people. Tribal art ranges through a wide range of art forms such as wall paintings, tribal dances, tribal music, so on. So, now, to summarize this module, India had always been known as the land that portrayed cultural and traditional vibrancy through its conventional arts and crafts. The 35 states and union territories sprawled across the country had their own distinct cultural and traditional identities and are displayed through various forms of art prevalent there. Every region in India had its own style and pattern of art, which is known as folk art. Other than folk art, there is yet another form of traditional art practiced by several tribes or rural population, which is classified as tribal art. The folk and tribal art of the India are very ethnic and simple and yet colorful and vibrant enough to speak volumes about the country's rich heritage. Folk art in India apparently has a great potential in the international market because of its traditional aesthetic sensibility and authenticity. The rural folk paintings of India bear distinctive colorful design which are treated with the religious and mystical motifs. Some of the most famous folk paintings of India are the Madhubani paintings of Bihar, Patachitra paintings from the state of Odisha, the Nirmal paintings of Andhra Pradesh, and other such folk art forms. Folk art is, however, not restricted only to the paintings but also stretches to other parts forms such as pottery, home decorations, ornaments, clothes making, and so on. In fact, the potteries of some of the regions of India are quite popular among foreign tourists because of their ethnic and traditional beauty. Now, here I will give you few examples from Gujarat. In case you have a chance to go to Gujarat, all the tribal groups of Gujarat they have very different colors of their dress pattern. They wear dark color for their day-to-day life. Black color, brown color, blue color. That is very because they don't have water so much to clean their clothes daily. So they use dark clothes and the temperature goes very high in that area. In the same way, we take the other caste groups or tribal groups, every ethnic group in India have their arts and aesthetics, their dance, and other things. Now, I will give another example. You must have heard the name of Ram Lila. Ram Lila is basically characteristics of urban setting, but this Ram Lila is slowly and slowly going to different parts of rural India as well as the tribal India. They want to act in different positions or different angles, like they act as a Rama or a Sita or a Lakshmana, means the influence of that urban influence is coming on these tribal groups as well. Thank you.